Hi everybody, it's me Jill and welcome to Jill Informed. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of New York City, Season 10, Episode 2, Running Your Mouth. Alright, I'm trying this one more time. I am going to be watching the show and commenting along the way. So let's get started. So right off the bat, this is the day after the Halloween party. And Dorinda goes over to Bethany's apartment and the two of them are having lunch together, I guess. Meanwhile, in a restaurant, Tinsley, Carole, and Ramona are having lunch together. So Carole says, how about LuAnn coming in blackface? Is that okay now? And Ramona goes, what? Is that politically incorrect? And Carole's like, yeah. Ramona says, listen, LuAnn used a little bronzer to look a little bit more like Diana Ross. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, God. Bethany and Dorinda are also talking about LuAnn. And Dorinda said, did you see her with all the bronzer? That was like borderline insensitive. And Bethany's like, yeah, but that's LuAnn. Okay, then both parties are rehashing the house in the Hamptons argument that Bethany and Ramona had when Ramona said, you don't want a house on the highway, you want a house south of the highway. Okay. So Bethany was telling Dorinda how rude Ramona was being to her about buying that house on the highway. Cut over to Ramona telling Carole and Tinsley, and Ramona says, well, it's just that I'm kind of like the maven of the Hamptons. Okay. I was just telling her what I thought, Okay, Ramona thinks she is the maven of the Hamptons. It's 4 days until the New York City Marathon, and Carole is telling Tinsley and Ramona about it. Apparently, Carole got 20 tickets for the marathon, and the only one who has asked for a ticket was Tinsley. So I don't know that anybody's going to go and support her. And she was talking about it, and Ramona said, I don't know if Ramona said, I can't go, but she goes, oh, I'm having a party for you in the Hamptons on the 11th. And Carole goes, what? Yeah, I'm having a party for you. Carole's like, was it a surprise party that you're just telling me about now? Ramona is so funny. She's having a party for Carole because she's so proud of her. Because who goes from not working out at all ever to running a marathon? Oh my God. Okay, so Ramona gets a phone call from this guy. I don't know if he's a party planner or what he is, a friend of hers, I guess. And she goes, yeah, he's the one that's helping me throw the party for you. Well, okay. So it turns out that it isn't really so much a party for Carole as the fact that Saturday night, Ramona's having a gathering at her house in the Hamptons. And we're just like, we'll honor you a little bit. Okay, that's a little different than I'm throwing a party in your honor. Oh my God, Ramona. Then she's talking to the guy and Carole mouths, is he married? And she's like, oh, I know. And she hits a button and Carole goes, did you hang up on him? Oh, no. Oh my God. She accidentally... And then he's like, no, I'm still here. And she's like, oh, okay. Hi, honey. So bizarre. And then she tells me that she loves him. I don't know what the relationship is. Really weird. Okay, so Sonja and Dorinda meet in the park to go for an early morning walk. Well, like 8 o'clock. And Sonja shows up in a red dress and boots with heels. Very strange for going for a walk. In fact, Dorinda's not much better. At least she has on a sweater and pants, but she also has bizarre shoes for walking. Like, don't these women own a gym shoe? They get to talking about the party. How'd you like the party? Oh, it was good. Sonja said something like, oh, I saw the way that Tinsley was dressed and everything, and I was just thinking, was it really so bad for her in that beautiful apartment she was in? Sonja still has a lot of unresolved feelings about Tinsley. When she said, oh, was it really so bad in the beautiful suite that I had her in? Dorinda said, I think it was more like you were pretty critical of her. And Sonja said, it wasn't critical, it was just, I just cared about her. Sonja better not spend a whole nother season with some sort of weird issue with Tinsley. They don't live together anymore, and she needs to get over it. First of all, she's implying that Scott is paying for everything, that he's paying for her hotel, $10,000 a month to stay in this hotel, or $9,000 was the number she threw out later. And Dorinda's really trying to say, okay, look, I don't think that's true, Sonja. Oh, yeah. And Sonja just keeps talking and talking and talking. Of course it is. Before he came along, she didn't pay for anything. When she lived with me rent-free, she didn't pay for one single thing. Not a chocolate bar for Connor. Who's Connor? Is Connor her intern? Maybe. And then when he came along, that's when she gave me a gift. She started to pay for things. The hotel, $9,000 a month hotel. And Dorinda goes, I don't think he's paying for all that. And she goes, well, if he isn't, then that's ridiculous, because she could have stayed in a beautiful apartment with me for free. Sonja is bitter still. Okay, next, LuAnn and Tinsley meet at a restaurant. I guess Tinsley was saying something about Scott. He must have broken up with her because she really wants to get back together with him, and she is trying to be the girl that he first fell in love with. I'm very curious about what happened. So LuAnn was giving her some advice because with her husband, the Count, he was in Morocco for something, and so she surprised him by flying there, dressing as a Moroccan princess and showing up at his door, and she had the veils on and everything, and oh my gosh, he just talked about it for years afterwards. He just loved it. So then Tinsley's trying to say, you really shouldn't be giving relationship advice because you just had this marriage from a guy you just met a month earlier. You were married for a few months and then you divorced. Oh my God, I almost forgot. LuAnn shows up with her hair all in braids. It was bizarre. Anyway, then Tinsley said, oh, and also I heard you're the Countess again. And she said, yeah, well, I will always be the Countess, but not legally, see? Because then when Tinsley brought that up, she said, oh, come on, is Queen Latifah a real queen? So now it's just your nickname? Then they get into the fact that LuAnn isn't going to the marathon. And LuAnn said, well, I wasn't invited to that. And Tinsley said, well, I mean, you and Carole got in a fight. And she goes, we didn't get in a fight. She said, I heard you guys talking at the Halloween party. And she said, oh, that's nothing. And I was mad that she didn't call me. And she said, you didn't call me when I broke up with Adam. And then we see a flashback and LuAnn said, that's because you had an affair with my niece's boyfriend. And Carole goes, he wasn't your niece's boyfriend. Anyway, long story short, Tinsley is saying to LuAnn, sorry, this is just my opinion, say what you will, but they had a much longer relationship than your marriage to Tom. I think Tinsley is trying to prove to us that she is not the shy, timid girl from her first season. She's coming out the gate hot, man. She says they were much closer than you and Tom ever were. LuAnn goes, oh, come on. It's a toy boy she had for 3 years. I think you mean boy toy. Okay, so now Dorinda and Carole are meeting. They meet on the High Line to go for a little walk and sit down on a park bench and have a talk. And Carole's talking about the marathon, which is now probably just 3 days away. And Dorinda asks her, for that long of a time, will you have music? Will you have a Walkman with you? And Carole goes, a Walkman? Like in the 80s? Oh, gosh. It's so cute. Dorinda mentions to her that the day before she met with Sonja and that Sonja was losing it. She called me and she said she wanted to start fresh and everything, so I agreed to meet her and we went for a nice walk. And Carole said, she called you fat. First of all, let me say this. Carole is not going to be a doormat this year either. I think Carole and Tinsley got together over the summer and said, okay, next year on the show, we're the alpha dogs. Actually, I hope that's what happened because I would like to see more out of both of them. Now, I don't think that Bethany and Ramona will step aside long enough to let that happen. And also LuAnn. LuAnn's the one with the big storyline this year, so really, she's the alpha dog. But anyway, we'll see how it shakes out. So Dorinda said, do you think I looked fat? And she goes, of course not. You looked adorable. Then, kiddingly, Carole said to her, I'm kind of mad that you're choosing to spend time with your daughter rather than go to the marathon and, wave to me as I go by. And they laughed, and she said, I was thinking of having some sort of a get-together afterward, but I don't know. And Dorinda said, well, I'll have a party for you. And she said, well, your girlfriend beat you to it because Ramona says she's having a party for me on Saturday night. She goes, I don't know if it really is for me or what, but in the Hamptons. And she goes, oh yeah, speaking of the Hamptons, I'm supposed to be staying with Ramona, but I don't know where you're staying. Are you staying with Bethany? And she said, I would assume so. I'm not going to stay with LuAnn. And she said, okay, well, just, keep me abreast of the situation. Okay, so now we're at Sonja's apartment, and apparently every Wednesday for 12 years, she's been having gay parties. Just parties with her and gay men. She really looks forward to it because it's so much more fun because they don't judge her the way the women judge her. The guys start arriving, and guess who shows up? For those of you who are with me and watching RuPaul's Drag Race this season, this is exciting crossover news. Guess who shows up to Sonja's party? Aquaria! And she looks more beautiful than ever. I was so excited. I don't know what's going on. This whole episode is filled with everybody just talking in groups of twos. Now we have Dorinda and Tinsley talking over lunch. Dorinda tells her everything Sonja said. And she's like, when we're in the Hamptons, you better be careful. Tinsley's like, what? Did she talk about me? Dorinda said, oh, she spoke about you horribly. If this is any indication of how this season's going, it's not looking good for Sonja. Okay, well, I guess I spoke too soon because LuAnn is going to be Sonja's friend. Yeah, the two of them just had lunch together. They are buddy-buddy. Sonja seems like she's really sucking up to LuAnn for some crazy reason. I don't know. But LuAnn just came from that dinner with Tinsley where Tinsley was kind of harsh with her. So LuAnn tells Sonja that she thinks that Tinsley's getting a little Carole in her. I guess when they greeted each other, Sonja called her Countess. And she said, you better be careful. Some people don't like me being called Countess. I could call myself ? If I wanted. Sonja's like, oh, that's crazy. Why not? So then LuAnn leans in and she said, listen, do Carole and Tinsley have 3 songs on iTunes under the name Countess LuAnn? And Sonja goes, no. She goes, do they have a Pandora station? I do. Okay. God. Oh, the Countess is back and I would have it no other way. Anyway, this lunch is going so well that LuAnn says, are you going to the Hamptons? Why don't you stay with me? And Sonja said, oh, I didn't want to invite myself like some other people do, but yeah, sure. But Carole, I guess, thinks she's staying at Bethany's. I hope so. I don't know. I don't think there's issues with those two yet. And then Sonja is staying with LuAnn, and Dorinda is staying with Ramona. So that should be interesting. So now it is the morning of the New York City Marathon, and Carole gets off the bus. It's still dark out. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. And we find out that her late husband, Anthony, ran the marathon, I guess, before they met. And a couple weeks before she went and looked up his record, he was 26 years old. He did this in 1985, and he ran it in under 3 hours. Yeah, that's super fast. She was feeling a little emotional about that, was giving her sort of a connection to him. So they're waiting for the marathon to start, and her trainer is there, and Adam is also there. He's running, and she runs into Heather Thompson, who is also running with her husband. They're both running in it. So yeah, so it starts, and so we see that she's about 8 miles in, and she said that her hip hurt and her right knee hurt inexplicably and all that. And I know exactly what she's talking about. She's 54 years old. But anyway, she just keeps plugging along, and now it's raining out, and we see Tinsley and some of her other friends waiting by the finish line, and Adam is with them. So he finished in just under 4.5 hours. And now they're looking to see where Carole is, and they can see that she's like at the 24-mile mark. They're like, oh, well, we better get to the end. So they're waiting on her, and her mom and dad are there, and she crosses the finish line at 6 hours and 42 minutes. But she finishes. It was pretty neat. I was getting a little emotional there. But yeah, so that was great. And that is where this episode ends. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to Jill Informed if you haven't already. Please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to comment down below. I really love to hear from you guys. If you want to receive a notification every time Jill Informed has a new video out, go ahead and click on that little bell. I will see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time for the next recap of The Real Housewives of New York City. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.